Torah is perfect, reviving the soul. God's teaching is sure, making wise the simple. God's precepts are right, delighting the mind. God's mitzvot are clear, giving light to the eyes. God's word is pure, enduring forever. God's judgments are true and altogether just. For I have given you good instruction. Do not abandon my Torah. It is a tree of life for those who hold fast to it, and all its supporters are happy. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace.
It's Chaim, the Machazikim ba, v'tomecheha me'oshar, dracheha darchen avam, v'chon netivateha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashava Chadish Chadish Yameinu Chadish Yameinu Kekedem.
Air on my mouth. That's not beautiful now. The face of our line is lifted up. You may God be gracious. Sound of mind on our left. Set on my shoulder. God's presence. Amen.
Yisrael Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
You're aware that you've actually done pretty much everything you have to do on the bima. The last blessing after the haftarah allows you to go like this. Right? Now it's time to receive. So it's a pleasure to call on behalf of the congregation and as a member of the Board of Trustees and on behalf of Sisterhood and Brotherhood, Kim Caffey, to begin presentations to you.
Well, Maya, this is a big day for you. It's very exciting. I have had the opportunity of knowing you and your wonderful family, I think, for how many years now? I can't count. From preschool all the way up to the big day where everybody could join the junior choir. The many years you've been in junior choir, their participation in all of the events that have occurred here at the synagogue, as well as all the busyness and activities that you take part in through the middle school and all the wonderful musical activities there, as well as your rocking participation in the School of Rock, too. You have accomplished so much in your short lifespan at this point in time, and I know this is all just another step in many, many milestones that you will continue to accomplish throughout your life, and it is an honor and a pleasure for me to be here today to present you with the gifts on behalf of the congregation, as well as just to be here on your special day, because you were awesome, you did a great job, and I know your family and all your friends are extremely proud of you, as am I. So, excuse me, a little verklempt. On behalf of the Sisterhood and Brotherhood, I would like to give you some candlesticks and a Kiddush cup that I hope you will be able to use as you celebrate Shabbat in the future, and also a nice tzedakah box there so you can continue to do many mitzvah with whatever you intend to do for the rest of your long life. And mazel tov again to you and your family.
Come on back. We're not through with you. Come on back. Normally, I would primarily be the one getting to do presentations, but really, today you get to present something to this congregation. Your family has taken it upon themselves to engage in the work of making sure that those who are rescuers, those who are righteous Gentiles in the time of the Shoah, the time of the Holocaust, are not forgotten. And so they've purchased a beautiful poster set that we'll be using educationally here in the congregation. But also, here, if you take it for a moment, they've purchased this book, The Rescuers, that is going to be a part of Congregation Beth Or's library, a resource so that we can learn these stories. I'll be telling one of these stories in just a short while. You also chose to be twinned with one who was a rescuer through the Jewish Foundation for the Righteous. So it is a great pleasure on behalf of Congregation Beth Or to accept this book that shall be in the Beth Or Library, and hope that people will utilize it to learn these important stories. Now I get to give stuff to you. The first is your mitzvah manual, which I really did have a wonderful time reading, and had the pleasure to get to see your reactions to those 10 different categories, writing about your mitzvah projects, writing about frustration, and also about success. And so I wrote back to you in there too. I hope you keep this around as one of those things that is a chronicle of your journey towards becoming bat mitzvah. I get to present to you on behalf of NIFTY, our North American Federation of Temple Youth, a certificate towards travel with them to Israel. When you're in high school or in college, you'll be eligible to go on one of the trips that they run. This certificate might make it a little bit more possible, so hopefully you will keep that in a safe place. I get to present to you a certificate that comes not from the congregation, but from the government of Israel. And this is a certificate that recognizes the fact that you chose to purchase an Israel bond with some of the money that you've received and some of the money that you have. It is not tzedakah. It is different than that. It is an investment in standing with the people of Israel. You'll actually get interest back on that bond. It will come back to you. But as much as it is a financial investment, it's also a spiritual, it is a religious investment as well, standing together with the state of Israel. I have a lot of certificates here. This one comes to you and recognizes your twinning through the Jewish Foundation for the Righteous. And this is a beautiful certificate that comes to tell you the story of Elena Divisova, who you are twinned with, who herself was one who helped to save the lives of Jews. She is still alive, Elena, and maybe you will learn a little bit more of her story and maybe even be able to reach out. But this is one of those things that has been of tremendous meaning to you and your family, and I hope that you will continue to educate others about the work of the Jewish Foundation for the Righteous. I know that your family educated me on their work, and so I'm grateful for that. On a very light note, you have been here an awful lot for services, Fridays and Saturdays, with our junior choir, but also just on your own. You wrote in your Mitzvah manual about enjoying coming here and participating in services. And we love to have you here. In recognition of the fact that you've gone above and beyond the required numbers of Fridays and Saturdays, you get the Sunday. Fridays and Saturdays for ice cream Sundays. So that's there. Sometime after this weekend, you'll cash that in and hopefully enjoy it. The last thing that I get to give to you is your certificate of Bat Mitzvah. This is a certificate that recognizes the commitment that you've demonstrated up until this time. Rabbi Marks, I'm going to steal his words in this way. Here's the recommendation. You get one of those double frames that holds two certificates. Put this certificate in one side, leave the other side blank. Because in a couple of years, when you stand on this bima as a confirmand, it will be a tremendous pleasure to give you the other certificate that recognizes that this day is one day in a lifelong path of Jewish learning and engagement and involvement in this community. Mazel tov. Mazel tov. I'm going to put all this stuff down. And you can have a seat now. Mazel tov. Shabbat shalom. I want to tell a story this morning. I told a different story last night, and I really am very grateful to the Litz family for helping to frame for me the observance this week of Yom HaShoah, of the Holocaust Memorial Day. In the Jewish calendar, we have a lineup of dates. Yom HaShoah, the Holocaust Memorial Day, followed exactly 1 week later with Israel's Memorial Day, the Memorial Day for those who've fallen in defense of the state and those who've fallen as a result of terrorist attacks. They are perhaps the two most serious days on the calendar for anyone who lives in Israel. And that's in part one of the reasons why Rabbi Marks has a congregational trip of 38 individuals from Beth Or there in Israel right now to be able to observe that period. But then it ends, this period ends the day after Yom HaZikaron, Israel's Memorial Day. It ends with Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel's Independence Day, a great celebration, an incredible cathartic moment that says that out of destruction came something incredibly beautiful and incredibly wonderful, came something which is worthy of celebration every year, really, which is worthy of celebration every day, which is the independent state of Israel, a place that has flourished and that has given new birth out of the ashes, really, of the Holocaust as well. But I want to actually take a different twist, a different turn on it by telling the story of one of the righteous. The Litz family directed me towards the Jewish Foundation for the Righteous, and it occurred to me that this week so much of the news and so much of the conversations that people have had around water coolers, to the extent that they still exist, the conversations that people have had on Facebook, because people are talking about it on Facebook, have all been about an individual who hid in a palace, basically, in a very comfortable home, who hid plotting to do evil. Osama bin Laden was hiding out, and the world was looking for him, but he was hiding out basically bent on doing evil. And I want to tell you a different story. The story of hiding, yes. The story of hiding even in a palatial estate, in fact. The story of hiding for the sake of good, hiding for the sake of righteousness. It's the story of a Jewish family, the Korn family, Paul and Johanna Korn and their daughter Ursula, who escaped from Germany in 1935 as the Nazis were coming into rule, as it was clear that things were beginning to be worse and worse for Jews. In 1935, the Korn family managed to escape from Germany. They made it to Italy. We don't talk a lot about the role of Italy in World War II. People focus very much on different places, but the Korn family made it to Italy, and in fact, in 1935, Italy was a fairly safe place for Jews to be, and they found that safety there. The Korns did, the two parents and their daughter. But in 1940, when Italy entered officially into World War II, there was an edict passed that any Jews who had entered the country after 1919 would be gathered up and would be essentially put into detention camps. That it was unclear exactly what their role was vis-a-vis their Italian citizenship, which they didn't have, vis-a-vis Italy's responsibility to protect them from Hitler. And so in 1940, the Korn family was rounded up, and they were actually split. The father, Paul, was sent to one detention camp. The mother, Johanna, and her daughter, Ursula, were sent to a different camp. They were held there for quite a long time. Ultimately, they were reunited when they were sent to the city of Città di Castello. And in Castello, they came back together and had been told that when they got there, a Catholic priest had told them that they should seek out the assistance of a good man who was a Catholic priest in Città di Castello. His name was Father Benjamin Scheivel. Father Benjamin Scheivel had a reputation of tremendous kindness. And indeed, the Korn family found Father Scheivel, and he agreed to help them. He took Ursula and Johanna, and he brought them to a convent. He brought them to a place where they would be protected. First, he hid them in his own seminary, in the place where the priests were training, and he hid them in the attic there for a period of time. Paul, he encouraged and indeed he sent to go and join the resistance, to go and join those who were actively fighting against the Nazis. And so once again, the family was split. Ursula and Johanna were kept in the attic of the seminary first. When that became too dangerous, and when it seemed that there was an awareness that there were Jews being hidden, he moved them out into the countryside, and he brought them to a convent. He then brought them from the convent, when that became too dangerous. He brought them to a deserted retreat house owned by the sisters. The sisters had a retreat house. It was essentially a beautiful house in the country. There was nobody in the house. And Ursula and Johanna, he brought them food periodically, and they laid down on the floor, unafraid to give any sign that there was any life in that house. Ultimately, the Nazis were overrunning Italy at this point. Ultimately, it was becoming increasingly dangerous for Jews to be hid. Father Scheivel moved the Korn family 4 more times during the war. Ultimately, they survived. And after the liberation, Paul, who had fought as a resistor, Paul, who had fought against the Nazis, and Ursula and Johanna were able to be reunited as a family and to continue to live in Italy there. One family saved by one individual, Father Scheivel. Father Scheivel himself, after the war, was designated as a Monsignor. He was moved much higher in the ranks of the church. He became Monsignor Beniamino Scheivel. And next month, Monsignor Scheibe will turn 101 years old. He is still an inspiration to all. His actions, putting his own life in peril, his actions on behalf of one family, but one family that meant the world. So we tell his story, we keep his story alive. He's 101 years old next month, God willing. I wish him up to 120 as Moses had at the end of the Torah. But we know that he won't be here much longer. But his stories will. The story of his life, a story of courage, a story of commitment, a story of someone who risked it all on behalf of saving one individual, one family, and as we say, saving the world entire by doing so. May his memory, may his life be for a blessing. Ultimately, may his stories serve as a blessing as well. And I thank again the Litz family. I thank Maya for your commitment to learning these stories of these righteous Gentiles, to learning these stories and to learning their courage. As you live out your courage, as you teach us about what it is to be a mensch. Indeed, we recall the story of Father Scheibe in the ways in which he most certainly lived up to that title of mensch as well. Now it's a pleasure to bless you with song and with words as Cantor Green blesses all of our B'nai Mitzvah.
Lech Lecha. This means in English, go from here. These were the words spoken by God in the story of Abraham when he began his journey from Ur to the Promised Land. We offer these words now to you, Maya, as you begin your spiritual journey as a bat mitzvah. Lechi la, in a land that I will show you. Lech lecha, in a place you do not know. Lechi Allah, on your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi la. Lechi la. And I shall make your name great. Lech lecha, and all shall praise your name. Lechi Allah, in the place that I will show you. L'simchat chayim, l'simchat chayim, l'simchat chayim, lechi la. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. And you shall be a blessing. Lechi la.
We're going to turn one more time to our Sidurim, our blue prayer books, on page 586, page 586 for Aleinu, as we stand once again before the open ark, and calling at this time for the honor of opening the ark, the Litz family great-grandchildren, Sarah and Joey. Once again, we ask the congregation to please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמענו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech
Melech
haolam
olam borei peri hagafen. Amen.